Okay, this is our last architecture piece from the Gothic period, and this is the very famous Chartres Cathedral, and this is in France, a little north of Paris, and it is considered one of the most famous of all the Gothic cathedrals, particularly in the country of France. You can tell that this is Chartres Cathedral because the spires are different. If you notice in other churches, particularly if you ever go to Europe and you see these churches, a lot of times the spires will match, but in Chartres Cathedral they do not. And that's because of the time period in which this is built and how it's transitioning when beginning of the time that it was built towards the end, how much the architectural advancements had changed just in the time period that this cathedral is going to be built. So I'm going to do the architecture on this screencast, and then I'm going to do um, the stained glass windows on the next one. So this area is in France is very has been lived in from ancient times. Originally, this is considered a sacred space, and it has a long time been a sacred space. They think there was a Druidic temple here. They also believe there's a Roman temple that was built during the Roman Empire, and then around the year 300, this becomes a Christian church. It also becomes a Romanesque church, and the Romanesque period, the Chartres becomes a really important pilgrimage site, and that's because of the relic that is here. So this church is also the Notre Dame. So it also means the church dedicated to Our Lady or the Virgin Mary. And the relic that this church has is a piece of linen or part of the tunic that Mary wore when she gave birth to Jesus. And so this shroud, this what she was wearing, becomes very important to the pilgrimage site because it was believed that if you came here and you visited this church and gave an offering to the relic or prayers to the relic, then you would have the protection of the Virgin Mary. So this was a very important pilgrimage site throughout not only, well, through the Romanesque period and then into the Gothic period. So let's see, around the year 11, I think it's 1194. Yeah, the Romanesque church that was here burned to the ground, and that was a huge deal for the people who lived in this area because this was an important site for because of the shroud and because it brought a lot of tourists and business here. And so losing that shroud in the fire was something that was just a huge loss for the church. But 3 days after the church was done burning, they supposedly found the shroud in the crypt or the area below where they bury people. And so because they found the shroud, they believe that instead Mary has chosen to clear the space so that they can make a much grander church that was dedicated to her. And so they start building Chartres Cathedral after after it burned to the ground. So really it's about the early 1200s and then into the mid 1300s. But the last additions, that north spire was made as late as the 16th century. So we're really seeing a transitional style from the experimental Gothic to the late Gothic. Okay, so another reason why it's important is that its association with important market fairs that are around there, especially cloth markets that are held at Chartres on feast days. And then they'll bring the relic of the Virgin, and that becomes kind of this intersection of local prestige and economy. It increased the income of the cathedral because of the pilgrimages, but it also through the tax revenue that is received through the markets. Okay, so here's the different views that you can see on this slide. You've got the royal portal. This is the one of the entrances. You can see a different area here. On this side, you can see the transept, and then on here, these are the buttresses, which I'm going to talk about in a second. You could also see the buttressing right here. And it's a little bit different than the Romanesque in regards to the plan, because you should notice that there's nowhere near as many radiating chapels that are occurring here. And it's a much more unified in regards to the plan. This new focus is going to be in regards to Gothic architecture is opening up the walls so that they can have windows that bring in light. There's a lot of harmony that's created in the Gothic churches. Notice there are, in this shot right here, you could see the three, this emphasis of the three, and that's the Trinity, that's the golden ratio. It's supposed to be harmony, and so that's really important to this. Okay, if you look here, you can see the flying buttresses, and the flying buttresses are extremely important because as the cathedral, if for the Romanesque cathedrals, you have the weight bearing is all put on the piers, but because stone is so heavy, they're trying to contain the weight and the outward thrust, because that's what the weight wants to do, is not just come down, but also to spread out. And so that's what these buttresses are intended to do, is to hold up the weight of the building and then allow for all of these different window spaces for the church program. So this all are examples of buttressing, and then you can see where they're located on this area right here. Okay, and then here's some more of the outside of the Chartres Cathedral, and this is the royal portal, and it's on the west facade, and this preserves the early sculptural program that was created around the same time as the really important church near Paris called Saint Denis, Denis. And this royal portal is not used for the general public, but only for important ceremonial entrances of the bishop and higher clergy. You could see in the drawing in the central tympanum, you have Christ enthroned in majesty, returning at the end of time, and he's surrounded by the four evangelists. And we know that because we can see the different symbols for the four evangelists: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And so that's the middle part of the sculptural tympanum. It is showing more serene and naturalism than they had before. There's also on below him are the apostles, and they're shown in groups of three. I'm sorry, 4 groups of 3 to fill the lintel. So that's what's happening right here. Are the apostles are right there. Sorry. There's also 24 elders of the apocalypse that line the archivolt. On the right portal is dedicated to the incarnation, or God's first earthly appearance. It highlights the role of Mary in the early life of Christ, from the Annunciation, which is when she is told that she is pregnant with the child of God, to the presentation of the temple. And then the left portal is the Ascension, or God's return from heaven to earth, and Jesus floats heavenward on a cloud supported by angels. Running across all 3 portals are the historicized capitals on the top of the jambs, just underneath the level of the lintels, and that depicts Jesus' life on earth in a series of small narrative scenes. So again, part of this is to be educational, to instruct, just like they were in the the Romanesque churches. So very similar to that. And then we have the jamb statues, and that is in what's pointed to here. And these jamb statues on this side are flanking all 3 openings, and they are the serene, calm kings and queens and prophets from the Hebrew Bible. and that is supposed to evoke Christ's ancestry and as well as remind the close ties between the church and French royalty. The prominence of the king and queens is why it's called the royal portal. They are depicted as calm and comfortable, filling this architectural setting. They are elongated and idealized in their features, very linear. They have lifelike drapery, but there's really no sense of bodies beneath them. So that's giving it to be meaning more of like a spiritual being or paternal and kindly looking down and past the people as they walk through the royal portal. Okay, and then in this side is the interior of Chartres Cathedral, and you can see the plan. And it's based on the principle established at Saint Denis. It's rooted in the Romanesque pilgrimage plan, but there's a significantly enlarged sanctuary that occupies a full 1/3 of the building. Now, originally, it's based on the Basilica plan that we've talked about before. This church, prior to the rebuilding of it after the fire, didn't have a transept, but they added the transept in order to accommodate the large number of pilgrims who were coming to visit the Virgin's relics. The interior, there's over 45 feet wide and 125 feet tall. It codified what became typical Gothic features. It has the pointed arch, ribbed groin vaults rising out from compound piers and rectangular bays. And then the flying buttresses permit large clerestory windows nearly equal to the height of the nave arcade. The area between the arcade and clerestory is occupied by a triforium instead of a gallery. And one of the things that the Gothic architects really tried to do is to unify the space instead of it making it seem separate like it did in the radiating chapels of the old Romanesque church. So the new focus was to open up the walls of the church. There's this new focus on geometry and harmony of the parts, and that was supposed to be the idea of showing the perfectness or of the heavens, or creating this ideal space by God. And it's the next part I'm going to talk about is the light and how important the light is with the windows that they specifically opened up the space for. So that will be the next one, is the stained glass window program.